Hello, everyone. This is Chris Ritchie with Magic Maker Studio. Lori is over here helping the controls and such behind the camera. But I want to introduce you to A Bit Overexposed. This is going to be our live stream educational interview, basically industry and a little bit of non-industry content. And what I want to do is thank our sponsors for making this happen. Without them, there's just zero chance. We've got some amazing content coming up. So our sponsors are Competitive Camera. I've been doing business with them for over 15 years. All of my camera gear, they're located here in Dallas. And now we're getting into video. So without them, this would not be possible at all. We've got H&H Color Lab, Your Fairy Godmother, Intuition Backgrounds, and Lead Savage. Those are our sponsors. And like I said, without them, this channel and all of the things that we've got coming up, which are going to be really unique to the photography industry, just couldn't be possible. So stay tuned. At A Bit Overexposed, we're doing a special interview that's really intended to go out to a bunch of students in our class. Mark Lane, the owner of ACI and Background Town, is in my Magic of Photoshop and AI class. And we got a lot of questions regarding some backgrounds and kind of a perception or what's going on with backgrounds and how could someone become a designer, what to be thinking about when you're designing backgrounds. And even though we're sponsored by Intuition Backgrounds, we're friends with a lot of different other companies within the industry. And since Mark is in our class, we thought it would be good to have him on and do a quick little interview about all things background. And if you want to become a background creator, then you're going to want to stay tuned to this. At the beginning, we get into a little bit of how we got into where we are and that kind of stuff and basic intro. But we're going to do a full interview with Mark Lane sometime in the future. So I hope you enjoy this. Leave us some comments and would really love to know what you would like to see. And we will talk about anything. So would love to hear what you have to say. So enjoy this discussion that I had with Mark Lane. Thanks. I want to introduce a friend of mine. We've known each other for several years, Mark Lane with ACI and Background Town. Did I say that right, Mark?
You got it. Yep.
And if I look away, it's because it's one of the things, because when I'm doing this interview, you're over here, but my camera's over here. And I know it looks stupid if I'm interviewing somebody and all they're doing is looking at my receding hairline. So I don't want them looking at that. So I may have to sit back here. And it's just—
Where's that retouch filter when you need it?
Exactly. You know what? I'm going to move my monitor over here like this. At least then I can drop my eyes down and look at you a little bit. So, anyway, so Mark, you're in my Magic of AI and Photoshop 2.0 class. It's 4 weeks, and this video is going out to others, but just in case it gets sent out to other people, or Mark, in case you want to send it out to anyone, and feel free to do that. Just to give a little context for what we're talking about here is, my 1.0 class was much more of an introduction to AI. The 2.0, we streamlined the introduction into AI into I created a Zoom that I sent out. I don't think I sent it to you, Mark, because you were already on with Midjourney and Discord. Is that right?
Right. I watched, I think it was your first in series, and you started literally how to launch Discord and how to sign up and all that.
Yes.
And then which it can be daunting when you're you're like, what the heck is this?
It's real daunting, and it's because what they do is, and I think that's a lot of things that people don't realize is, man, this stuff changes so fast. I'm not as old as you, or maybe I just don't.
Not many are.
But of all the things I've experienced in my life, which, I'm pushing the big 6-0 coming up here in a couple of years, and at least within the photography industry. Now, I wasn't much into the film. I shot a little bit of film back in probably the mid to I'm trying to think what year that was. It was probably the early 90s, right before film, just right before digital was coming out.
So you were right on the edge of it.
I was, yeah. And the only reason I shot some film was because I had a landscape business, and we needed some images for our website, believe it or not. and we were going to have a really cool website, and we did. But I just didn't want to pay what this local photographer in Tyler wanted to charge, and now it's ironic as I'm probably charging a heck of a lot more than he is. But so I bought a film camera, shot some stuff, and I need to put it on my desk. But one of the first images from that first roll of film that I shot is one of my favorite images of all time of my two daughters. So that's kind of how I got into this. But through my, I don't know what year that was. That was 26, 27 years ago. But then I quit shooting for probably 7 or 8 years because I went into corporate America and all of that kind of stuff. And
this is my first digital camera.
Oh, that's awesome. So what size digital card, memory card did that take?
Memory card.
Memory card. Did it have a? Because I think my first memory card was a 1 meg card.
Floppy disk.
Oh, that's awesome. What year did that come out? Do you know?
Oh God, I don't know. Yeah, a while, but it has bragging about a 1 megapixel file.
Yeah, well, you know what? A 1 megapixel file was not a small file. So that's pretty awesome. So, and I don't want to go down this path too much, but because this is the kind of stuff that I want to talk about when we do our full interview. But with our brand that we're creating, a bit overexposed, which kind of fits. It's probably more about my inability to keep my mouth shut at times and say things that get me in trouble as much as it is photography. And most people that know me know that I don't hold back on opinions and thoughts, and so be it.
Pretty easy to go there.
Yeah, it is. And I've gone there probably sometimes too much, but I have learned something as an artist. I'm not going to apologize for who I am, but I will apologize for being stupid or saying something I shouldn't, or saying something and not realizing maybe that it could get taken the wrong way. And shame on me for not realizing that. So I'll own every mistake I've ever made. And Mark, you and I've had a couple of run-ins where we've had some disagreements on something, and I'll commend you on that. Is when that happened, you owned up and took responsibility for the disagreement that we had, and that meant a lot to me. And that's probably why we've become, I think, pretty good friends now. Yeah. I mean, we text each other every now and then. We've never dated, but
you are mighty handsome, but no.
Right.
Too young. You're much too young for me.
Right. So anyway, you were talking about your camera, but so what I was alluding to was, so our brand is called A Bit Overexposed, and so I'm designing the logo. I was just going to do it in AI, but then I couldn't just get it the way I wanted, because one of the challenges with AI, as you will see, and most people don't realize, is so many people that don't like AI, and I understand why they don't, and I don't disagree with some of the things and some of their opinions, but it's very easy to create something really cool. That's very easy, and it's very easy to create something very cool in the style of an artist that we all recognize. Sure. But it's very difficult to commit something very specific in a very specific style, and not have to spend a lot of time manipulating it or doing it, something like that. So my logo for A Bit Overexposed is going to be a vintage camera, a vintage microphone. As a musician, you can probably appreciate is it the Shure SM55? It's the old classic microphone. I've ordered one. It'll be here sometime this week. And then a bourbon glass. So I want all three of those. I could
have loaned you one. I got a couple of them.
Oh, well, I've got a new one coming that's going to replace this one here. I want the vintage microphone here. But
you need a ribbon mic. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I really want is in the style of, say, a John Hartman light painted. And so I'd love to have all three of them with a real moody light painting. And that's going to be my logo. So I ordered I've never really shot film. I bet I only shot 2 rolls with that camera, but I ordered me it's either between 1949 and 53 Rolleicord camera. And it should be here Wednesday or Thursday, because I want to photograph it to put in my logo, but I made sure I got one that works. So I'm kind of anxious to shoot some old film and do some stuff like that. I assume you guys don't develop any old film, but
that's a 4-letter F word. Yep.
Right. So anyway, let's get down to it. Let's talk about specifically. Well, I'll tell you what, before I do that, you tell me a little bit about ACI and Background Town.
Sure.
And wherever you feel. I know that the students in this class that you're in, you've not I think you're too busy playing guitar or probably working late, and I know you probably catch up on them later, which is probably I don't know how many we have registered this time. In the first class we had 32. We probably have somewhere between 17 and 18 in this one, and typically there's about 6 to 10 that are actually on live real time. Everybody else just gets the download and listens to it, when they're editing the next day or something like that, so they're not up late. So anyway, tell us about ACI and Background Town.
So ACI has been around a while. We used to, our old logo was American Professional Color Corporation, Inc.
Okay.
So, a lot of words. That opened in 1967. My father-in-law was a large photographer in the area. He shot 5,000 seniors in the
wow.
in the Iowa region.
Okay.
And some undergrads and portraits and weddings. He was kind of a jack of all trades kind of photographer. And this was in the black and white days. And in 1967, color was new, honestly, making some of the same controversies that AI is now.
Right.
This color, it'll never make it. It won't take care of the vintage port. It won't, take the place of vintage portraiture and, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff we're hearing about AI, or that we did hear a while back about the switch from film to digital, was happening back in the 60s. So we were the first regional lab. There was one down in Texas called Mizell, I believe. And then another one in Kansas, little lab, Miller's, I think they're called. Little lab.
Yeah, little lab.
And really not much else. There were a few one down in Beloit, Kansas, I think.
Okay.
In the day, and not much of that going on. So we were pretty
because
innovative.
Because most places back then, before the switch from digital or from film to digital, correct me if I'm wrong, weren't most camera stores that sold cameras the ones developing film and providing prints?
And professionals like yourself literally would go in the back room, soup your own stuff, and then sell it. So the idea of a lab or outsourcing that kind of thing was a big deal.
Interesting.
And digital's kind of taken some of that back, where you can put a nice printer in and make some of your own things.
Yep.
But up until then, that was unheard of.
Interesting.
So so that was 67. We opened Background Town longer ago than you think. 10 years maybe.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
And it's just been kind of a support thing for that. We really didn't push it real hard. We had booths at a few shows and things like that. And then this last year, out of necessity, because we separated with one of our customers, we had a lot of inventory, and said, well, let's just go full on with this.
Sure.
And it's been a big deal.
So do you feel and I don't want to go down this road a whole lot, but one of the things that that I know a few different owners of background companies, and it's kind of a mix. I've always wondered, does when you see someone like me, for example, that does a lot of compositing of images, for my first 12, 13 years as a photographer, I rarely shot in studio. I did not like shooting in studio. So I just was never a background guy, but back then they just all were pretty cheesy, or they were all kind of the same thing. And so I learned to do composites. So I'm curious, when a lot of now kind of a big trend is to create your backgrounds in AI, a scene, and then you composite a person in there. Do you feel that's going to hurt your industry? Or what I feel is there's still a huge need for really unique drops, because a lot of people don't want to spend that much time creating a composite, because I don't even care how good your skills are. I mean, I feel like mine are pretty decent. Yeah, it takes a lot longer than just having a great background to shoot a client on.
I think for background drops specifically, AI is putting some energy back into that, and honestly, some creative onus back on the photographers. you had to buy, an old Masters from Denny, great stuff or whatever, but
Yep.
or hand painted backdrop from Europe or from David Mayhew or somebody like that that
Yeah,
did
we
some
bought
amazing,
one. Lori,
amazing stuff.
yeah, we bought a
absolutely.
painted one
But
from someone for Easter, I think a year and a half ago, and it was beautiful. But
yeah, they are.
yeah,
And on the rod, and you have to roll the rod up and all
Yep.
that stuff. Well, we took a different turn, and we weren't the first by any means, but decided to direct print fabric.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know what SCG is, but it's if you go through an airport and you see these fabric displays on the wall,
Right.
there's a little bead of silicone they sew in on the edge, and you can change out the displays. We do quite a bit of that commercially. So why not make backdrops too was the thought.
Okay.
So, but the idea of being able to take a room or a Christmas scene or whatever and fold it up and put it on the shelf at the end of the day is kind of neat.
Yep.
So back to Background Town, we really didn't push it that hard, but what we found is, at least before we bought Serendipity backdrops, we found that most people were just buying custom ones anyway.
Okay.
Some were great and some were terrible. This was before AI, but
and when you say custom ones, they were buying ones that they made themselves.
Yeah, take a picture of the local sports field, or take a picture of the park that I'm used to taking photos in, or the waterfall, or whatever the thing is. And then on a nasty day, I can still shoot in front of it.
Right.
And these things aren't near photo quality; they are photo quality. They are really good.
And our Santa set is available through a different company, through Intuition, and you and I've talked about that. We're all good friends and everything. And
Becky's great. Yep.
Yeah,
nicely.
She really is. I would not have even considered making my drops available until the last 2 or 3 years, just because of the quality that was on them. I just didn't want people to go, yeah, that's one of Fritchie's backdrops. It just didn't shoot very well. And I've got a local photographer that has one of my drops, and I've had people send me a message like, "Hey, is this you? Why are you? How did you move your studio over to Rockwall?" It's mind blowing how good the quality is now.
Yeah. Now, it could be argued, I suppose, Chris, that a real prop versus that thing back there has a different photographic experience.
Absolutely.
But when you're talking about Magic Santa, you do have a real tree, or you do have
that's exactly right,
a real bench, or whatever the thing is. So,
and that's what I call, Mark, I refer to that when I'm teaching, is what I call hybrid backgrounds.
Yeah.
So I really stress, when we use a drop or something like that, we're putting additional props in front of it, and where it's not just the subject and some background, unless it's a headshot or something like that.
Now, one thing I will say with AI, and I've seen this a lot, and I've done this a lot, it's difficult to control light direction. So you can say shot on a Sony A7R3 with blah blah blah, and light direction, up light, all that stuff. But the person buying it has to notice that, has to 100% pay attention to that. And so being a photographer too, I look at some of these pictures coming in from AI backgrounds. I'm like, oh, you lit it from the left, and the light's coming from the south, or right.
So, Mark, do you think that when I'll ask this as someone who sells the backgrounds, because it's one of the things that I want to include as we keep evolving the drops and designs that we create, that especially if they're coming from a designer, I think there would be a lot of added value when they purchase that drop if they get a 5-minute little video on how to shoot on that drop, meaning where you should position your lights or that kind of thing to get the best results. Have you had kickback from designers to include that information, or is it?
We've had people do that at shows, where they put the drop up and they so okay, like light from this direction, that kind of thing. But honestly, when you're talking about, I don't care who you are, Background Town, Serendipity, that's us, Background Town, Baby Dreams, Intuition, Fancy Fabrics, Graceland in Australia, whoever you're buying from, we all have thousands of drops on our sites.
Right.
I mean, I think Background Town has like 7,000 now.
Wow.
And it's a lot.
Yeah.
So now it comes down to how good is your site to, search Christmas background with green and a penguin in the back, or whatever the search engine thing is.
Right.
And so to say, wow, Chris, I'm going to hire you to shoot a bunch of backgrounds and explain how to do it. As a photographer, you should know that.
Right. Yeah, that's a pretty big challenge. Right. Okay. Well, since you opened the door, let's get to what I know most of those in my class are looking for. And I can see right now, I need a timer on here so I can, maybe there's one on Zoom so I can tell how long we've been talking, because I'll just talk all day. Ask her sitting over there. She's nodding. Yeah. So in our class, we've had several people ask, and they want it, and I'm going to get the same information from Becky, something similar. But tell me a little bit about if someone wants to be a background designer, or if they want to design something and have you print it for them. Kind of tell me a little bit about that process. And I know that some of the questions were, what resolution do I send in? And I talk about scaling. To me, scaling is the biggest mistake I see that designers do. I order a drop of a toy store at Christmas that I go, oh, that'd be a great secondary drop to have up for those clients that don't want to do Magic of Santa again, but they still want us to do some kind of Christmas holiday portrait. So we'll set up a different little scene, and I'll order it, and I'll put the little kid in front of it. And the kid is 4 foot tall, and the door looks like it's 3.5 foot tall going into the toy store.
Right. And that's why, I'm not a fan of props so much in the picture. You really have to be careful of that. Yeah. But let's talk about submitting your own for now. And I would assume this is similar with any background company that you are going to buy from. But verify this if you're an Intuitions customer or whoever. Verify this with your background company. With Background Town, we say 150 DPI at size.
Okay.
So here's the kicker though. As a photographer, you're used to dealing in, with a chip that big, right, on your camera, and anything is upsized from there. So interpolation happens after the camera takes its resident file DPI, file size. So I have a Sony A7R4, big file.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Like mine's an R5, so that file's massive.
Yeah. So same kind of thing. But that camera makes a 65 megapixel, something like that. But not anywhere near to an 8x10 foot image at resident DPI. So now you got to start thinking, okay, if I take a photo of this scene out here, how do I res that up adequately to print a backdrop? AI is even worse, by the way. But what I tell people is take your photo or take your AI image into your computer, do all of your Photoshop first. Now, you may disagree with this. If you got technical reason not to do this, I'd love to hear it. But do all your Photoshop first. Do all your changes first, and then go through the res up phase. Okay. Because things like vignettes get gradients. Things like shadow to highlight get little weird rainbows and little JPEG compression artifacts
during the upsizing process.
Even in gigapixel, they do that some.
Really? Okay.
But so you gotta really watch that. So what I tell people is, just do your Photoshop first.
Okay.
And then res up, because then next door neighbor interpolation, it doesn't take that line and add a magenta square or pink square or whatever, which almost
that's a good point. I never thought of that. Yeah. So okay. No, and because I tend to do the opposite. I tend to upsize it to the full resolution that I'm going to need it. Well, and then edit. But that's to your point, and I think to a photographer's point, because I'm going to try that on an image that I'm going to work on tomorrow. Yeah. What you're suggesting, because the other thing that it does from me is it's going to make my computer a lot faster working with a file that's only 1400 pixels wide versus a file that's, 12,000 pixels wide or something like
8
that.
by 10 feet
Yeah.
at 150 dpi is a monster file.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then when you talk about a sweep, if it's a 10 by 20 sweep, you got a massive file.
Right. So do you guys then, do you ask the designer to give you the file to scale in size to go to the printer so y'all don't have to do anything? Or do you guys help them with that if they just
there's internal interpolation that takes place too. Because we're taking that JPEG that they send us and in the RIP converting it back to CMYK.
Okay.
For the printer or whatever this CMYK light cyan light, but all the extra colors.
I dealt with that in the magazine world. I'm glad I don't deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's all happened. That all happens in a program called Onyx that re-renders those files.
Okay. So you would tell them if they're designing, let's say, a sweep, you would want them to submit that. And probably I would think the best way for them to figure out kind of what the norm is would be just to go to your site and look at some different maybe styles that look similar to theirs and look at the sweeps and look and see what size you sell them in. And then would they submit it as one size? So I'm sure that you have sweeps that are, 8 feet wide by 12 feet long, and you may have some that are 10 feet wide by 14 or 16. I'm not sure all the sizes.
Yeah,
from
a custom standpoint, because we're the printer, we can print 10 feet wide by darn near anything if you need it.
Okay.
If you want 90 yards, I'm your guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but be a big file. But
right.
So, but on the site, I think the biggest
shipping wouldn't be cheap on that either.
It'd be a big roll of fabric.
Yeah.
But I think on the site the biggest is like 10 by 20.
Okay.
On the ultracloth.
Okay.
But as far as resizing, Chris, what I tell people, and because this is what I do, is I'll set Topaz gigapixel to level 6 upsize. Now switching back to AI, this camera might be smaller, but level 6. Check the little filter. It's kind of in the middle for a low res filter.
Okay.
And then make sure that on the save you check sRGB.
Yeah. So let me just do this, Mark, while we're here real quick. Let me just open.
Oh, perfect.
Can you see my screen? So what I'll do is I'll just go down here and open gigapixel. Well, actually, let me quit. I'm not I would not call myself a professional gigapixel user, but
me neither. I just do what I need to do to get the designs.
Let me grab an image here that I'm playing with.
But I can tell when people try to upsize it in Photoshop and they just resave it to a bigger size, because that doesn't work.
Okay. So I'm just going to I've got a bunch of folders here of stuff that I've been playing with over the last 8 or 9 months. And while I'm doing this, I think it would only be fair for me to say, I think it would be, and I guess this is upsizing it already because I've already got some stuff set in here. But this is an image that I like that I'd love to have printed. And I think this would be a cool one to do a family session or senior or anything in. But I want to mention someone, a close friend of both of ours, because I initially resisted AI when it first came out. I was like, oh, this is going to destroy the industry. It's cheating. It's all of this, and this. And, I probably way overacted. And then, I every now and then I would talk with Scott Detweiler, and we'd talk every now and then. We'd message, we'd text. We're good friends, and I don't know what it was that triggered me to go all in with AI. I think it really, for me, was now wait a minute. I can spend 2 days in a stock photography site and then have to work my butt off once I find something that I can create what I want, or I can use AI and Midjourney as my personal stock photography library, and I can create a lot closer to what I want and then manipulate it. So I want to, do a little shout out to Scott that without his input and knowledge and expertise and probably a little bit of prodding me, I wouldn't have embraced it. And when I say embrace AI, I don't just mean Midjourney and images. And we're using AI every day to market, to email, to do all kinds of stuff in our business that would take a staff of 4 or 5 to do what we're doing. Anyway.
Well, I sent you the Chat GPT "Drunk Chickens in the Barnyard."
Yeah, that's
song.
right. You did. And
Yeah.
you know what's funny is I'm working on a song with a friend of mine, and I'm using Chat GPT. I'm not using it to write necessarily the lyrics, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I've already know the story. I know the words. I know what I want in the song, and I don't write melodies, but a really close, one of my absolute best friends does. He and I sang on stage in Marshall, Texas, when I proposed to Lori. We did a Adam Stone song, who, if you ever get a chance, you're in Nashville, look up Adam Stone, just a singer-songwriter. And I sang to Lori the first verse, then hopped off the stage, and he continued it and proposed to her.
Awesome.
So I'm a hack when it comes to music, but I love it. But anyway, with the and I've lost my complete train of thought, but the AI, we use AI more in the business side, creating content, creating drip email campaigns, working with our funnels. We get an email from a client that's maybe unhappy, and I'm pretty good at responding those. I always like to say my most difficult sales are the ones where I'm saving an order, not getting an order when we've dropped the ball or when we've messed up. But using ChatGPT to type in an email that says, "Hey, I messed up with a client. Here's their message. Can you give me some polite, creative ways to respond to this that they can truly appreciate, that I'm sincerely sorry for the mistakes we made and we want to take care of it." And it's amazing what AI can do.
It truly is. Yep.
Yeah, and then make it your own. So anyway, why don't we jump back on here, and then hopefully I'll have that song that I'm letting ChatGPT help me create better rhymes. And I don't like this. No, let's try this. It's a lot of fun, honestly. When I'm bored,
It is.
I'll sit there and try to write something. So anyway, so tell me a little bit. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, I think why it looks different to me is maybe you're in crop. I can't really. I'm on an iPad. It looks like
Okay.
you're in crop mode rather than resize mode, maybe.
Let's see. Oh, I am.
There
So,
yeah, okay.
there. Does that help?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, you're in the special resolution. I usually just do 6x.
Okay.
Depends how small the file is. This one would res up fine though. So I usually do 6x.
Okay.
And check that low res filter right below lines.
So you a low res, and so what?
Yeah,
what do you think that does compared to? Because I've compared lines, very compressed, art, GT. Why do you feel that is a big value add?
I think that, and you'd have to get to the Topaz geeks to figure this out, but I think that has to do with the kind of interpolation that it does as it upsizes it.
Okay.
So the reason I went there is I know Midjourney files are dinky. They're tiny, tiny little files.
Right.
And they wouldn't even make a very good print, let alone a 10-foot print.
Right.
So I want to res it up, and I want it to know that it's a low res filter. So that's just where I went with it.
Okay.
And then face recovery is not important, so I just don't really mess with that or anything like that.
Right. I just have it on there by default.
Yeah, and I think blur line is like at 50%. I'll have to look at mine to see where that's
at. You have your remove blur at 50%?
Yeah, something like that. And
okay.
And you can start to see on the right-hand side, it start to give a little screen resolution example of that. Again, it's not giving you the full res image. It's just giving you a screen resolution.
I think when I go to the crop mode, I guess it doesn't for some reason.
Yeah, usually it gives you side-by-side comparison of the file.
Yes, it's updating now. It's like I said, it's funny. It's not showing me the way I'm used to normally looking at it. And the 6x is making it a massive file.
Yeah, it does, and it needs to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when they submit the file to you, a lot of people, they don't understand pixels as compared to resolution, but what kind of pixel size are you looking for? What's kind of your lower side to your higher side in that pixel dimensions on an image?
Well, these still need some internal interpolation on our end. They're still small. They're still a little small, but they do print well. So when I go to save image, and this is where people goof up. You've got yours set to JPEG. That's perfect.
Yep.
and max JPEG. So there's obviously this is not a lossless JPEG. This is still a compressed JPEG.
Right.
But you're going to, I don't think it
And
even
so
gives
would
you
you
that
rather
option.
so would you
You could,
rather, do you think if I'm doing this, if I'm telling my students or someone who is, I've got a couple other people that aren't in my class that I mentor that want to create custom drops. It's a side of the business they want to go into.
yep.
So what would I tell them? Do you feel like they should, put that into a TIFF or a DNG, or,
Well, if
what's
they're
your
going to
thoughts?
work on it
Yes.
anymore after
Yes.
this, or a lot more after this, you might want to export a TIFF. I don't,
Okay.
but
I can say most of us are going to work on it with at
yeah.
least the students that I talk to.
And if you save it as a DNG, then you can work on it in RAW.
Okay. And I use camera raw anyway a lot.
Yeah.
To
Then
a
you
lot of
then
stuff.
save it as a DNG file.
Okay. So, all right.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to change this location. I'm going to take this and put it back here. We're in my Midjourney folder, and I think it was in my folder called Warehouse. These are just some ones. I've got a whole bunch of these that I want to get turned into. So
DNG is kind of an old term. It just means digital negative.
Okay.
It's kind of stupid.
So boom, that's it. And
yeah. Now, but if you're just gonna export the Midjourney file out for an upload to Background Town or something, which some of them are fine without any manipulation,
right?
Then just export it as a JPEG, but make sure you have that sRGB tag in there.
Okay.
But one of the mistakes that people are making is they leave it defaults to PNG file.
Okay.
So they leave it at PNG and then no color space, and it just comes in all goofy. So
okay, that makes sense. So looking at this one, okay, so let's just, and I think I know what you're going to say, but let's just say I think, oh, this is really cool, Mark. I want to have my lights go out on me. My backlight just went out. That's all right. If I wanted to submit this to you guys, either as a custom drop, or I wanted to put this out there that you could in turn sell on your drop, and I'm your designer. What do you think some of the things on this that are going to make it stand out? And what are some of the things that you think are going to hold it back?
Well, you got to keep cropping in mind, because this is a pano.
Right. Okay.
Most of the backdrops that are printed by, I would say by far, most backdrops are either square or in 3.2 or 8x10, whatever 8x10 proportion is.
Okay.
0.8 crop.
Like a 4:5 ratio. Or,
yeah.
So I guess that's a great point. So if I'm submitting stuff to you, you prefer it to be in a 4:5 ratio, not a 2:3?
No, I don't care. Just keep in mind what it needs to print to,
right.
and we can limit cropping options, because obviously you're not going to want to do a 10x20 sweep from that.
No, correct. So in this,
yeah.
So for me, there's a couple of things. What I tell my students is, if you're gonna create this drop, then this drop would be I would want to crop out as much of the ground as possible, because that's difficult to deal with. Let's just hypothetically say they order a floor from you, right? So they have a cool looking concrete floor that they can buy. And one of the things that we started doing, you probably do it there as well, is we have a rubber floor, but then we'll order some fleece drops from the floor category.
Yeah, they kind of stick to it.
Exactly. Then we just lay that over the rubber floor, and it's lightweight, it's easy to move around. And then we've got two different pieces we can use with two different ones. So
yeah, we actually promote that, or tell people not to. I mean, they can if they want to buy 10 different floors, but they're pretty unruly. So if you buy one floor of a cobblestone, you can buy 10 other floors of different woods and bricks and things like that, and fold them up and throw them in the corner.
Okay, so what I would do is, I don't usually work in a DNG, so I wasn't expecting that to close. So I'm going to then click open this here. What I do is almost all images I edit, even if it's a JPEG, I bring it into Camera Raw. But I would go in this one, like we were talking about, and I'm not gonna do it to a specific aspect ratio just for this discussion, but whatever it is they decide, I would try to put this probably somewhere along here, where when it prints, it's got a nice straight edge that they can hang and then now they can add their own floor or whatever it
Yep.
is they want to
I'm
do.
with you. You either need a lot of floor or no floor.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Right. So
Oh,
I'll tell you what my advice on these, and I'm okay with this, even though some of these lines don't look okay or whatever, doesn't bother too much. If there's
yeah.
anything that bothers me about this is how some of the darks are so blocked up and there's no detail in them. That bothers me a little bit, but I'm curious from your perspective as an owner of someone and you know what sells, does that prevent this from being a drop that someone would purchase?
I think, Chris, it falls into the what does mom want category.
Right.
To the kid that's grunge, or to the kid that is, got that kind of rough edge, that might be kind of neat. Mom still might not want it.
Right.
You
So
know,
yeah. So that's
so
another one, but this one's got a lot of, this one I'd probably need to redo the prompt and see if Midjourney's gotten any better. This one just has a lot of issues going on to me with
got a lot of stuff, a lot of busyness in it.
yeah, a
One,
lot of artifacts and weird stuff going on.
yeah.
So,
The other thing that Midjourney does that drives me a little nuts is it loves to put things in the center of the picture.
oh, absolutely.
And I'm like, okay, how am I going to put a person in front of that? Where are they going to go?
You, brother, you don't want me to start that preaching. That preaching got me in. I got in hot water with someone that we used to work with on their backgrounds by mentioning that with Santa and fireplaces. You and I can have that discussion maybe one on one. But
yeah, we had
yeah.
someone send a custom backdrop through of a AI lighthouse,
Okay.
beautiful seascape kind of thing with lighthouse. And I thought,
Oh,
how are you going to shoot on that? Because that lighthouse is literally going to be like that.
yeah, it's gonna be coming right out of their head. Yep. No, that's a great point, Mark, that I think we shouldn't fail to mention is don't put, what is it that you're taking a picture of? If it's a beautiful lighthouse and it's a beautiful fireplace, then then fine, just leave the image like that and hang it as a piece of art. But if I used to get clients all the time, oh, I know where this beautiful fountain is. Well, great. You want me to put you in front of a fountain and now people can't figure out what they want to look at because the fountain's all coming out of your head and all that stuff. And
yeah,
I think that's a great point. Now, I like these, even though it's centered, because in this one, I think I stopped sharing my screen. Let me share my screen real quick.
funny, while you're looking that up, we have, I think I said almost 7,000 backdrops on the site now. It's way over 6. And still some of the most popular ones that get bought are the classics, the master style.
Yep.
And I hope they always will, because that's a look that is just,
and that's
timeless.
the fine art stuff. That's what I'm into right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there was not self-promoting, and it's going to sound like I am, and my haters are going to say that, but I think my style, and what I did for years, and I think we're mostly known for our Santa stuff. It's kind of busy, but before that, I was mostly known for creating, really busy composites with lots of components and things like that. And one of the things that I worked with on my mentor in the last 3 or 4 years to really change my style was to get away from that and go more towards that old masters look. And I was very pleased that we had some great success in TPPA's print competition earlier this year with 2 of our images in the child category that were just simple, clean images. And they scored the 2 highest of all the entries of the children. And for me personally, just kind of like you, I love it that the judges embraced and respected that traditional style on just a simple, clean background, nothing crazy and extravagant and everything.
Yeah. And I've done them on Midjourney, but some of the classic backgrounds, if you type in old masters, you're going to get a picture of Rembrandt with a
right
gopher on his head or something.
Yep.
It's really hard to get that muted, solid, or whatever old masters look. I've done it, but it's taken about 800 prompts to get there.
I agree. And that goes back to the first thing that I said when we first started talking. It's easy to get something elegant and beautiful and amazing. It's hard to get something deliberate. I mean, one of my favorite drops that I need to replace was just a simple black wall with the let me stop my share because I like to talk with my hands, but it's just a simple, clean black wall, and it's got the really pretty trim work, around it, and then I can position people around, and it's just very classy. It's very classic. It's got a little direction of light on it. That's my favorite background. If I want to throw a gel on it, I can, but to recreate that wall in Midjourney, it's like, no, it would be easier for me to drive around Dallas and look at all the hotels and find that wall and photograph it than recreate it in Midjourney.
Here's a challenge for you. Do green grass. Just green grass. That's it.
Okay.
That's all you want.
We got
took
right
me
here.
like 90 prompts to get green grass.
Well, we'll just see what it does.
Yeah.
Well, I just put green grass, I think.
So you'll get, I don't know what
yeah, that's a little overexposed, as we would say. I actually hit the caps lock, I think, when I was typing. Yeah, how about that?
Yep.
Yeah, to get a lawn, I was trying that as well. I think on a castle image, it kept doing it. But yeah, so it's got a pretty girl.
Oh, I was getting weeds growing out and all kinds of like plants and then over in the corner, a tree on fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. That's where it's going to kill it. Let's just don't forget to type that, Chris. So if we
go to share your screen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll share my screen. I didn't realize I wasn't sharing my screen. Come on, goofball. All right, now I've got to. So this is where I'm trying to get my technology up and running. Mark, is I've got some really cool tools that
yeah.
I don't know if you know Eugene and his dad with competitive camera. Gosh, Eugene's going to kill me. I can't think of his dad's name. But they've been, I've bought from them ever since I bought my very first camera as a pro. So forever. And they sponsor us, and they're sponsoring our live stream thing that's coming on. So I wanted to just put here, beautiful fairway. But I've got some really cool tools where I can click simple buttons to bring up different screens and everything. What's that?
You're going to get a golf course.
I know. I'm hoping that somehow I can get a lawn. No, I don't get a lawn, right?
So what I ended up doing is I went out with my cell phone in my backyard, took a picture of the grass, used that as my prompt image.
Yes.
And that was the only way I could get it figured out. Because I tried what you were doing, and I just, no matter how I described it, I couldn't get it.
Right. So Mark, I'll tell you this. I was watching, and I make no pretenses about it. There's very few of us that create from nothing. Very few people. They're inspired by something. We all are. There's not as they say, there's not a song that hadn't been written. So I was watching another AI expert on YouTube, and he was trying to create something specific. And if I remember right, I just caught a glimpse of it, and then I had to leave. But you know how you can come in and you can upload an image, or you can use an address of an image. Well, so let's just take lawn. He put like 6 or 7 different prompts of the same subject that he liked, and then told it to create it. And it got really close to creating what he was trying to create.
I've never tried that.
I hadn't either. So I was going to have you. Yeah. So you might play around with that. So, you're a guitar guy, and it's funny. I don't know that you can see it, but it's funny when you talk with your hands and you're kind of doing this kind of thing here. I don't know that you probably can't tell what I can see. I see little guitars. So I don't know if you got guitars, you got your green screen and you got guitars behind you or something, but it's really funny as you move your fingers, there's little miniature guitars that keep showing up when you move your hands. So,
oh, that's funny.
I love it. Yeah. I could see a little bit of it looked like a Martin OM or something.
Behind me is an image that Woody Walters gave me, took of my guitars. And, I don't know how to turn the thing off here, but
that's all right. I just thought what you know what, I'll send you the recording of this. Yeah. So that's awesome. So are those guitars of yours that he photographed?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Yeah. I'll send you a book that I shot. We've talked a little bit about it. I'll send you a copy of a book. We just found some cleaning out our garage that we didn't realize there were still any that existed, called A Story of Six Strings. Strings, and it's when I shot Stephen Arnold.
Love to see it.
I shot his guitars all over the country. I'd love to see those images close up of Woody's. Those were fantastic. So, okay. So Mark, let me ask you one more thing, and I want you to be very general with this. Just so let's just hypothetically say we've got someone reaches out to you and you really like what they're producing, and you feel like, yeah, they want something printed on their own, but they also want to be a designer for you. So I think I just lost my screen. Lori, can you do me a favor? Can you tap on that camera? I think my camera, let me just, it says change battery, but that camera does not take batteries. So that's interesting. Mark, give me just a second here.
No problem.
Where's that other USB webcam? I can just throw it on real quick. I think I took it down because he could see it in the picture. So let me just see it laying over. It's okay. It should be okay. Yeah, let me just set this back up here, my ugly webcam, and we will switch.
Gosh, isn't that a cat?
We will switch. No, that's not it. That's the wrong one. There we go. Okay, that's good, Lori. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, now you got my regular. I don't know why that other camera shut off. That's my R5. It's got a constant power connected to it. So back to what I was saying is because I've had a couple express interest. They really want to get into designing their own line of backdrops, and they would like a company like yours or Intuition or someone to print them. So tell me a little bit about what that process is like, and then just a little bit of what their expectations are as far as a commission, or how does that work on a business side for someone who wants to be a designer?
Okay, well, it always works best if the designer promotes their own line.
Right.
So,
yep.
So to put something up and expect it to be selected out of, bazillions of backdrops in literally everybody's case. Let's say a design for Becky at Intuition or Aileen at Baby Dream or whoever the person is, or us. There's a lot of stuff on these sites.
Right.
So the designer it's in their best interest to really say constantly in their social media or from the stage, share their affiliate link. So with
and then let me ask you this to go on top of that.
Yep.
I think one of the things that I struggle with looking at drops is when I scroll through them, and I feel like I've got a good vision for what I see, what something is and what it could be by the time I get done with it. But I still really prefer to look at a backdrop on whether it's your side or Baby Dreams or Intuition or whoever. I want to see what it looks like with a person that's been photographed on it, not just a generic background, right? I'm getting a thumbs up from Karen back there. Is that really, I would agree with that. That really helps sell that drop.
And the way we tackled that on our old site is we had it so a PNG would pop in front of the backdrop of a family or whatever. And we lost that when we went to our Shopify site. Okay. So now if you notice, if you look at our social media, you'll be seeing things like contests for images, things like that. Submit your image on your Background Town.
That makes sense,
etc. Because now we do need those photo images.
So if someone's thinking about being a designer, not only do they need to design great drops, not only do they need to understand that for them to really make any money on it, they're going to want to promote those. And to me, the best ways that a lot of ways they can do that is obviously joining other photography groups and sharing the work that they create, and where it is applicable, they can enter those image and print competition and have some successes with them. Or there's all kinds of places where they can start getting recognition for their work, and then mention that drop's available through Background Town or Intuition or Baby Dream or whoever's selling them.
Yep. So let's talk about the contracts or the agreements. All background companies have this. Doesn't matter who they are. They're written slightly different, maybe, but basically, what we want is you to agree that you own the intellectual property of what you're going to upload.
Yep.
I promise you, if you go over to some of the other sites, you will see Star Wars, you will see Barbie, you will see Tiffany and Company, you will see quite literally illegal things on those sites.
Walt Disney. Boy, the last thing you want a Disney.
Correct.
Grinch or something like that. There's many of them that are trouble.
And there's arguments of, well, if it's the subject of the photo, if it's the subject of the backdrop, sorry, it's the subject.
Right.
So you really gotta watch that stuff. What is the subject of that backdrop? If you called it, X-Wing fighter and have the Death Star in the back, that's probably going to piss Disney off. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. No, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So those companies are super protective of their trademark. It's not even copyright; it's more trademark.
Correct.
So you got to watch that a little bit. So in the agreement, it talks about excuse me, that. And I promise you, with one of them that I know, if there's a lawsuit, it'll go right back on you as the designer or the printer,
Right.
probably not the company. so you gotta watch that a little bit.
So do you feel the backdrop companies have, or should take a stand on that when those things are being submitted, to protect the integrity of the?
Do. Yeah,
Okay.
Barbie's a big deal right now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of pink Midjourney files go through and things like that. You know, and if the kid has a Barbie in their hand, okay, it's probably not the subject of the picture, but
Right.
you know, and there's been rulings on that kind of thing, how much and all that, and I don't get involved with that.
Right.
But if it's got a big old Barbie logo on the back of the
Yeah.
backdrop, that's probably a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to contracts.
So you know, we have the designer sign an agreement that they own the intellectual property, and there's some other fine print as far as how they're going to get paid, that sort of thing. We have a scale that goes from not to let me rephrase. If you load a backdrop up and Joe buys the backdrop for 50% off, you'll get 50% of your designer fee.
Okay.
If so, for example, if the designer fee is $35, you'll get half of that.
Okay.
What we don't think it's fair to say, Chris, you're the designer, you're never going to get anything if I sell it for 100% off or 50% off, right? 60% off.
Right.
So we don't go lower than $15 for a designer.
Okay.
And it doesn't sound like much, but when it's a Black Friday sale and we sell 1,000 backdrops,
Right.
that, you know, we've got designers that make a couple $1,000s a month.
Sure.
So,
well, and one of the things that I, you know, to one of my mentors, you know, one of the best mentors I ever had, one of the best pieces of advice he gave me, and it's taken me this long to try to get to that point. He said to me is, even though he was a photography mentor of mine and trying to help me develop my art, he said, Chris, if you really want to be successful, not just in photography, but in life, you got to figure out how to make money when you're sleeping. And,
right.
and that's what he means by that is doing backdrops may not make you rich, but if you're doing this and you're doing some other things and some other things, that extra income can really start to add up fast.
Well, and to a speaker or to a social media influencer, you know, that's one more click link back and forth to your stuff. So
absolutely,
so that can be important too. The other thing that I know we have, I don't know if they whoever they are have, is an affiliate link. So
correct.
So if you're a speaker and you throw back there a QR code and say, okay, everybody now scan that,
right,
buy this new Magic Santa photo or a backdrop,
yep,
you'll get a piece of that sale.
Right.
So that's how that's set up. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think you've answered everything that they were looking for. And I know we went into a lot more detail and probably more time than I thought we would, but I know my students are going to love this. It's going to be everything I can, not to just want to throw this out there to, I'll probably throw this video, if it's okay with you, into my alumni group. I've got a group of it's just for students that have been through one of my workshops, whether it's online, Texas School, you know, or Magic of Santa, any of those where they've been to a full workshop, not just to hear me speak somewhere. But I'll probably throw this out there so they can listen to this. I know they're going to love it. It's been incredibly informative and you know, a lot of fun. And what I want to do is have you back on as soon as I get everything this really set up the way we want it set up, where we can have a little fun and maybe learn a little bit more about you personally and your photography journey. And I'm going to have a requirement.
That's a long meeting.
Well, I want to hear a couple of your favorite guitars. You know, hopefully you'll do some of that, and then I'll also extend out an invitation. One of the things that I want to do, and I've already got it approved with the H's over at H&H, is I want to put together a roundtable interview live stream where we can put this across multiple platforms. And I'd love to have you, the H's. I'm going to reach out to Bruce at at Marathon, and
Yeah.
maybe a couple others. And I'd love to have a kind of a roundtable discussion from a look inside the industry, maybe the inside looking out, where you guys can share. Because I know talking with the H's and talking with you, and I know Bruce very well over at Marathon. And we had a great relationship with them for years. We just kind of outgrew their product offering. But they can provide a lot of insight. And I know you guys all, a lot of people think y'all are these big competitors. And on some level you are. You're all competitors, but yet some of the things I've learned, especially during COVID, is how much you guys worked with one another to help support each other and
Absolutely.
maybe
That
bail.
was huge.
I don't know that I want to say bail people out. That's probably a
Yeah.
poor choice of words, but I do know that there were things like where, hey, we can't get this paper in, and
Chris,
you know,
it
you
was
may
like
call
a
someone else.
nationwide AA meeting. It was literally a support group. We had
That's awesome, and I think
Yeah.
most photographers are unaware
Yeah.
of how much you guys support each other on a daily basis, even though you're competitors, and even how much you guys, because I've seen it, because we helped Marathon set up their booth at Nashville. I think it was Nashville, Lori, a few years ago, and we were right next to you, and how much interaction and dialogue there was between the vendors, and how many of them are such good friends. And we'd love to hear some horror stories about. I've got a friend and a client that owns a really popular restaurant, and he loves to throw out videos on social media. And it's like, as the owner of the restaurant, he'll go, okay, well, today, and he's kind of country, we're going to talk about what not to say to a waitress when she comes up to your table, or how not to talk to a hostess, because it sure isn't going to make your meal get there any quicker. So I'd love to hear some, you know, maybe you guys can come up with your top 10 list of ways a photographer who is in a bind shouldn't contact you and what they should say. I'm sure you've got a long list.
Oh, we've all got stories there. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I hope we can get that arranged.
I would be all over that.
Yeah. I think it would be a lot of fun. So
back years ago, Chris, we had an association called APCL or APCI, Association of Professional Color Labs.
Oh, awesome.
And we would have meetings called bull sessions.
Okay.
And a topic got put in the middle of the table, and we would just rant for an hour about whatever that topic was, and then a presenter went up and talked about what that table had discussed.
Right.
So this is right along the legacy of the bull session. So
that's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah. So when I guess when I first was really getting into portrait business, God, he's going to kill me because I'll mention him in here. I can't think of his last name. I'll have to put it on my phone. But, you know, I was Pound's lab in Dallas was my main lab because they were close. I could
Danny Pounds.
Yeah. No, but the guy that kind of ran it, Dennis, I can't think of Dennis's last name, but he pretty much, before Pounds closed down, he pretty much ran that lab. And he and I became really good friends, and we still are. We play a little bit of golf together. He is now with I believe it is with Shutterstock. They've got a big facility here in Dallas, and he runs a big portion of their production.
Oh.
But what's that? Shutterfly. I'm sorry. What did I say? Shutterstock. Okay. Shutterstock, something like that. He's with them. But I got to learn a lot of the horror stories of issues with clients and funny things. And but it was also because anytime I'd go pick up an order, they would usually just send me back to his office. So I got to see a lot of behind the scenes things in labs that, a lot of people didn't get to see. Not that it meant anything special, but I think most people would be amazed if they haven't toured a lab to see how organized and how detailed, and all of the orders that go through, how rare it is that there's a mistake with all of the activity, especially during the holiday season.
You'd be shocked. I think we're at 1/10% external remake rate.
That's amazing.
It's really low.
I wish mine was that low.
Yeah. But the ones that 1/10% is a big deal.
It is. No, sure.
There's a customer behind that one.
No, absolutely. All right, Mark. Well, I think I know we thought about doing this tomorrow, but I think you're going to be out. So I think you have plans and things to do today and for a few days. So I truly appreciate it. And I know the folks that see this are going to love this. And I can't wait to do this again and kind of make it one of our official broadcasts instead of you just supporting our workshop. And I'd be interested when you're done with the workshop and you've done everything. I'd love some feedback from you on what you learned and what you think we can do better.
Well, I love the little blue arrow thing. I'd seen those. I never hit one. I thought, go.
The little blue arrow thing.
I can move my AI image up or down or sideways and
Oh, okay. Yeah.
get a variance. Of it.
Yes. There you go.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, Mark. Well, we're going to sign off. I appreciate it. And everyone, again, this is Mark Lane with ACI and Background Town. And I'm Chris
It's
Pritchett.
been a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, Mark. Take care.